For this first project, we are going to use these picture holders and threads, spools of thread, and these tart pans. I don't know if these are old or new and just well loved, but they are kind of rusty and crusty and definitely used. So we're going to use those. So when you're in the thrift store, make sure to pick these picture holders up. And we use the sticks off of these. And we'll just take them off those things. And these are the picture holders that I'm talking about. And the base just on most of them just screws right off, and you can pull those sticks out of there to use on different projects. Now sometimes the bottom of it will be a little bit different. It'll have this covering on the bottom, and you'll just kind of rip that off. And then it will have a nut and bolt inside of the bottom piece, and you will just take that apart, and then you can get your sticks that way. Now with how to make them all individual is up to you, but I have to use pliers and wire cutters and kind of pinch at it, bend it back and forth, and then weaken it. Now that first one, I was not able to get those cut off with just my wire cutters. I had to actually take it downstairs and use the bolt cutters that we used at the barn. So yeah, that one was a little bit tough, but this one is different and a little bit easier to do. So you can see that I just pinch it with the wire cutters and then work it back and forth till it weakens, and then I can snap it right off. And so I'm just going to go down the line and do that with this football picture holder that I found at the thrift store. I think I paid $2.99 for it, and then I'll get lots of different little picture holders to use in projects. So like I said, I'm sure there's a better way to do this than the wire cutters, wiggle, and snap off method, but I have not found that yet, and it works for me. So when you're done cutting these off and have them all individual, you can use them to hold bingo cards, vintage flashcards, anything like that, pictures and vignettes and things like that. So those spools of thread and the tart pans are going to be used to make a display piece for these picture holders. We're almost done with getting all of these off. Like I said, it goes fairly quickly to pull all of these off. So what we'll do is match up a thread spool with the tart pan, and I like to use ones that are a little bit bigger that fit right down into the tart pan. The thread does come unraveled with these, so I like to use some Mod Podge and just wrap that thread around and glue it down so it doesn't come unraveled in the display piece. And so like I said, I'll look through the thread spools. I've got plenty of them, and then match that up to the size of the tart pan. Now, when you're putting these in there, you look at the label, and I like to put the label that's that's prettier, I guess, or cooler, sticking up, because that's really a neat feature of these old spools, is those fun labels. So like I said, I just used some Mod Podge, how do you say that? Mod Podge. And just a little bit, we'll do a little dab. And it dries clear, so you don't need to worry about it being seen or, affecting it in any way. So I'll just take all of these and wrap the thread around, and then use just a little bit of Mod Podge and kind of smear that on. That's a technical term. Smear that on, and then set them back into their base. And if the labels on the spools are loose, when you got the Mod Podge out, you can also re-glue those labels down so they stick. Now this spool just wanted to be naked and not have thread on it, so all of his thread came off instead of gluing it down. Now to attach the spool to the tart pan and then the picture holder, I just use hot glue. This is my Ryobi glue gun. I absolutely love this thing because there is no cords to get tangled up in, and as you can see, I'm quite a messy crafter, so having no cord helps that situation. So I just put a dab of hot glue in the bottom of the tart tin in the middle, and then hot glue onto the spool, and then stick that spool down into the tart pan. Now your picture holder gets some hot glue there at the bottom, and then down into the hole, and then your picture holder. Now if it isn't as tight or as still as you'd like, always add more hot glue. There's no problem with adding more hot glue. And then those will stand up quite nicely there in the center of your thread spool. Just a little more dab and it was ready to go. And we'll just go down the line and do that for the rest of the spools. Dab in the bottom, around the bottom of the spool, into the tart pan, and then on the picture holder. Now if you want a simpler project with these picture holders, I bought these large chunky salt and pepper shakers, and those were $2.99 for 50% off, so $1.50 each. And you can just stick those picture holders into the holes at the top of your salt and pepper shaker, and that's quite a simple way to use these picture holders in your vignettes. And you can use the salt and pepper shakers, or you can use a coffee mug with a flower frog or something like that in it. Now for project 2, I found these paddles in the thrift store, and we are going to take them and turn them into vintage looking auction paddles. Now I took them outside and I spray painted them with a black primer. I did not get the video of that because there was much difficulties in making this video. Brought them back inside after they dried, and we're going to paint them with Dixie Belle's drop cloth. And here is Sunday, my puppy, and he's like, "Hey, Mom, you need to stop painting and play with me." So I'm just going to paint one coat on these because I want them to look distressed and old. So while I paint, I thought I would tell you what the Fifth Sparrow No More means. So I have questioned my worth. I believe the words of a human more than the words of my beloved Father. The words that he wrote to me and for all of us. Then my friend Suzanne wrote something that made it quite clear to me. And this is what she said. In the Bible, there are 2 verses. Luke 12:6-7. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Yet not one of them is forgotten by God. Indeed, the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Don't be afraid, you are worth more than many sparrows. And then in Matthew 10:29-31, it says, Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid, you're worth more than many sparrows. Jesus is letting us know that these little sparrows are valuable to God. In the verses, 2 sparrows are sold for a penny, or you can get a deal and get 5 sparrows for 2 pennies. I don't know about you, but there have been many times when I have felt like the 5th sparrow. You know, someone paid for the 4 and the 5th was thrown in for free, not even paid for. That's a true feeling of worthless. The enemy would tell us that the other 4 were good enough to be bought for a price. But you are so unworthy that you are just thrown in because you couldn't be redeemed. I don't want any person to feel like that 5th sparrow. I want them to know they are fully loved by God and worth so much that Jesus died for you in order for you to live. I want you to feel like the 5th sparrow no more. Now this goes for our thrifted finds as well. Those can be thrown to the curb, thought of as worthless, and thrown away. But we can upcycle, repurpose, love on them again, and make them the 5th sparrow no more. Make them worth something, and something beautiful for our homes and for our businesses if we sell in a booth, and bring those pre-loved items to be loved again. after I painted them and they were dry, I took them outside and sanded them down with my hand sander. I did not get video of that. Well, actually, I did get video of that, but it got lost somewhere in the humble jumble of making this video because it was difficult to make this video. Like I said, one coat of the white over the black primer and then sanded it with the hand sander. Now, to make the numbers on them, I printed out a 1, a 5, a 2, and a 4 on my printer. And I chose those numbers because of the holidays, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, 4th of July, and Valentine's Day. I figured those would be good numbers because those could be in vignettes for those holidays. Now I'm taking carbon graphite paper and cutting that in half so it'll fit better on the paddle. And I will just take my numbers that I'm cutting out and then place those on there and trace them. Now in your graphite paper, I'll link everything below. In your graphite paper, you do get a tracing tool. If you are a organized and not so messy crafter, you could probably hold on to those tracing tools. However, I did not. So you can see that I'm going to use the end of a paintbrush, a little small paintbrush, to trace my numbers. So you place that graphite paper the black side down and you place your numbers on top, and then you can just trace them onto the paddle. Like I said, just trace on the outside of this number, and then as you can see, that transfers that number onto the board. And then we'll just place the 4 on, and then do all of our paddles the same way. Carbon paper, the number, and trace it onto the paddle. Now you can reuse this carbon paper several times, so you don't need to use a different sheet every time, which makes it really nice. And so you can see how it just traced the numbers on there as well. And so, like I said, I'm just going to go down the line. I'm going to do a 24, a 25, a 14, and a 4. And then that way people can use them for Christmas, Christmas Eve, 4th of July, Valentine's Day. For the numbers, I'm going to use Dixie Belle's Barn Red, and I am not being too particular with this, just filling in the lines that I made with the graphite paper, but I really want these to look vintage and handmade. So like I said, not too precious with the painting, just filling in those lines, and if I get a boo-boo here and there, then I'm going to embrace that to make them look handmade and vintage. I want to say thank you for watching today, and I'm looking forward to the next thrifted items that we Fifth Sparrow No More together.